What's going on, everyone? We are back for another edition of the Bleed Los podcast, Carne Asada. We've got a lot to discuss. The Dodgers had a historically bad road trip, but luckily we avoided back-to-back sweeps. Is there still hope to right the ship? All that and more coming up next. Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have got Cody, aka Canelo, in the house to break this all down for you. We also have Anthony in the house, producer Roger behind the scenes, and as you know, I am Drea. But before we get into everything tonight, we've got to make sure to tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the Los Angeles Dodgers. It is your one stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat and check out DodgersBeat.com. What is going on, fellas? These are hard times. How are you holding up?
Uh, yeah, that's all I got for you. No, yeah, yesterday was bad. But today is a new day. We won today. But yeah, I just kind of want to get into it because it was a disaster. This is probably like the worst stretch of Dodger baseball that at least I can remember off the top of my head. I know 2018, there was a lot of rough stretches there, but I don't think anything comparable to this. But yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with Anthony. I thought I probably said rock bottom maybe twice or three times on this road trip. I thought the sweep in Pittsburgh was embarrassing, and then we all saw what happened on Saturday with Yamamoto, and we're definitely going to get into that. But definitely seen some better times of Dodger baseball in my time of watching, and Anthony brought up a really big season in 2018 where they had a lot of inconsistent stretches, but I don't think anything compares to the last 2.5 months we've seen from this team, which just isn't Dodger baseball, and it is frustrating.
I mean, it's so frustrating, and I struggle to find words because I keep thinking that, okay, it's rock bottom today, but then the next day they find a basement to rock bottom, and then I'm wondering how far down is this really going to go, because we are down to what? We're less than 20 games now in the season or something like that, and I'm terrified that we're going to see another historically bad game, because let's be honest, this was historically bad, and I think we should just kind of get it all out of the way up front because it's on everyone's mind. Just take me through the inning that we all thought was going to be the most amazing, historic. We're going to watch this footage forever, and it all collapsed within a matter of minutes. Anthony, what were you thinking? I know you were at Disneyland, were you not, when this was happening?
Yeah, I
How
was.
did you? How? Tell me.
So yesterday was supposed to be like a mental like break from like the Dodgers. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Disneyland with the family. I don't want to be that guy who's in line with the phone out watching the game. But then I got two texts. I got one text from my buddy Luis, and I got a text from producer Roger. The text from my buddy Luis said, check the box score. And then the text from producer Roger is like, you might have to step away to watch this game. So
Mhm.
when I checked the box score and I saw a big fat zero next to Yamamoto under the hit aisle, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's time to like be that guy and just watch this game in line and everything. Now, progressively, like the nerves start kicking in for me because like now I don't want to be like, oh, I jinxed it because like I hopped in the middle of a no hitter. But I saw him those last three innings and he was very dominant. He was like he had his stuff on. So as I'm sitting there and he gets down to his last batter, Jackson Holiday. By the way, you have a hater for life.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm looking at the pitch sequence and I'm like, damn, he didn't chase those two pitches that he had outside the zone. I thought he would chase and bite at them. Nope. And then he left that cutter kind of high up and in. And immediately off the bat, I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. And then as you can see, it barely just squeaked over the outfield wall. I don't know. We had this debate last night. Should Andy Pajes kind of like give a better effort there? Kind of just like I brought it up yesterday. One of the perfect games that I remember was Mark Burley's. I don't want to get the outfielder's name right. Let me look it up right here. I texted it to you guys. But that's the game that I remember because the outfielder made like such a ridiculous catch out there. Dwayne Weiss, there you go. He saved Mark Burley's perfect game. If you guys don't know it, just look it up. The play he makes is unbelievable. And now that's where like we had that heated discussion about like should Pajes kind of like at least make the effort. I know he kind of like hesitated because it looked like he wanted to play it off the wall, but you're up 3 runs, bottom of the ninth inning, down to your last two outs. Like you gotta at least kind of give the effort there. But then that's where I was like, all right, like that sucks. That really sucks. And for whatever reason, I'm like, okay, I'll just turn off the game and like enjoy. The Dodgers are gonna get one more out. I'm gonna turn off the game and I'm just gonna wait for the notification. I'm here at Disneyland with my parents and my brother. Like I don't want to like, keep watching the screen. And we're sitting there and like that's weird. I haven't got the notification yet. And then I keep getting more messages like, "Hey, are you watching?" I'm like, "No." And then I'm like, "Why haven't I gotten that notification yet?" And then my brother's like, "Okay, just throw the game on. There's surely they're gonna get out of this." And when I throw the game on, we see Trinan load the bases, and then they cut away to the bullpen, and Tanner Scott has his hat off. He's kind of like going like that, has no hair. Don't know why he's doing that. And then he's starting to like get loose. I'm like, and the first thought that came to mind is, "Oh God, they're gonna blow this game." And sure enough, like a few minutes later, the game was over, and like we weren't the only family upset. There was very other families that were watching the game on their phones, on their tablets, and like the feeling was very, very mutual. Like, how do you end up losing that game? All you have to do is get three more strikes, essentially. So that's where I was at yesterday. It was a pretty bad way to end a nice family day out at the park. It was supposed to be a peaceful day, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Mm. Cody, take me through your thoughts because I don't even know. It's so hard for me to verbalize what I was thinking.
Yeah, I turned on the game kind of midway through, similar to Anthony. Unfortunately, I wasn't at Disneyland, so I kind of was laid back in my recliner playing some video games, and I was like, let's throw on the game on my phone. And, Yamamoto, you looked at his pitch count, it progressively kind of got lower as the game went on. He was getting a lot of weak contact, early pop flies, grounders. He had a nice play to first base that he sped down the line to get the out at first, I believe, to end the 8th inning. And I was like, man, pitch count looks good. If he gets early contact, the velocity's there. He's probably the most healthy of all the starters. He's made every single start for the Dodgers this year. I was like, man, he really has a shot to get 3 outs, these last 3 outs in Baltimore, to not only just get the Dodgers a win and snap their losing streak at the time, which at that point I was like, man, this is kind of feeling like rock bottom. They really need to get a win. But not only is he doing that, he's going to throw a no-hitter on top of that. Talk about, breaking the ice and breaking the streak and kind of building off of that. And then, like Anthony said, he gives up the hit. He gives up the home run to Jackson Holiday, which, hater for life. Love the kid. I've been following him for a while, but didn't want him to get a hit in that moment, especially not to ruin the shutout. And then it kind of just, I went up to go get a drink of water. I came down. Miraculously the bases are loaded. They still left Blake Trinan in there. Didn't really like the decision not to pull him against Cowser. And then you bring in what I think is probably what I thought was going to lose in the game to begin with. I said there's no way you can bring Tanner Scott in this situation. And I let my opinion known on that on social media, and a lot of other people agreed. You can't bring in Tanner Scott, who the night prior was basically saying the baseball gods hate him, and he's definitely not right mentally. He may feel fine physically, and I don't even think the pitch that I forget the guy who hit it in the 9th inning. It wasn't even really a bad pitch. It was like a fastball or a cutter, low and like down or inside. Guy statistically hasn't hit lefties really good in his career. Just shallow enough for not Dean to get the ball, and Dean doesn't have the best arm out there, and then he ends up airmailing the throw anyway. And then you're looking at a walk-off loss where you took a no-hitter in 8 2/3 of an inning. Those are games that you want to win every single day, but in that situation of the Dodgers were in, losing 4 straight, you're not only chasing the Phillies, but you're trying to keep away the San Diego Padres, who were dismantling the Colorado Rockies. It's a tight race, and the Dodgers, it just seemed like the past 2.5 months, they just haven't been a complete team, and it showed why yesterday or on Saturday. The offense did just enough. The defense was fine. The pitching was solid by Yamamoto, but this time it was the bullpen. Some other days it's been inconsistent offense. Some other days the bullpen's good, but the starting rotation, has a few bumps in the road in the game. So clearly the Dodgers just can't put together a really good game. And even though they won, while we were recording this today on Sunday, there was still a lot of, things I saw that just didn't look like the team that was assembled this offseason. But overall, frustrating night. We were talking before we started going live here or recording here, and it has to be probably the worst regular season loss I've seen in probably at least 5 or 6 years. I brought it up very closely to when Rich Hill took his no-hitter into the 10th inning and they lost in Pittsburgh. For whatever reason, they can't play at PNC Park. I remember that one. That's the first game I thought of, but at the time the Dodgers, they went on to won like 104 games that season. So, losing a no-hitter that late in the game and in that fashion they did just didn't sting as hard as this one. And it just seems like you looked at what they're on pace to win, the division race that they're in, all the stuff that's been happening the past 2.5 months, to lose in that fashion. I would say concretely that should be the lowest point of the entire season, is that game right there. And the only way to get out of that is up. So they get a win on Sunday. They salvage the series, and now we'll see what they do against Colorado. But yeah, it was embarrassing, frustrating. I felt all the emotions on social media and when I went to bed that night.
Yeah, I had a hard time just like even trying to find a game in the past that I've watched that made me feel this way. And I know that, we tend to forget things that happened in the past seasons because, hey, we won the World Series last year, but I was down on a few games last season, even though we were the champs and ended up winning it all. But I just couldn't think of one. I remember just like, thinking this is the lowest. And what got me the most, I think, was that one, we hardly ever see no hitters. This would have been the 327th no hit, I believe, or no hitter in Major League Baseball. But if you saw Shohei, they panned to him right before there was potential for this to happen. I kept thinking, oh my God, the amazing footage that this is going to produce and the celebration. And I mean, think of how much we've watched the Kershaw no-hitter and all the little things that came with that. It was just, I just could feel the history forming, and to be robbed of that and then to follow with the loss, that just seems like we just cannot catch a break on this team. But one talking point that I kept hearing over and over from fans on social media and just different chatter around the league is that should Yamamoto have even been pulled? Because yes, his pitch count was high, but people were like, he would have at least been able to produce one more out. I don't know. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, they made the right choice by pulling him. It's the smart move to make there. Yamamoto as well, when you saw the shot of him on the mound, he was kind of relieved. Like, he was kind of dapping up his teammates, like, yeah, I did my job here. I'm glad we got this far. Shame we didn't get the last out, but like, you got this, boys. And then we saw what happened. But yeah, I would have definitely pulled him. Now the decision to go Trinan's your top guy, one of your top guys, supposed to be. He's supposed to get you 3 outs, but immediately when you see danger, that's when you start lifting or bringing up other guys immediately. I don't think Dave, when he brought Blake into that game, would think that it would lead to snowball to kind of what it turned into. But I think that's the correct choice. You take Yamamoto out the game, you kind of give him his flowers then and there, and then you have him unfortunately watch that disaster of a last few minutes of that game.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer decision to remove Yamamoto in that spot. He was well over 100 pitches. You don't know how many it's going to take to get that last out again, and he just gave up a home run that was pretty much smoked off the bat off his best pitch of the night next to the splitter with the cutter. Just, it wasn't a bad pitch that Holiday hit, but, third time through the order, that's the golden rule. A lot of these guys, and that was on their fourth time seeing Yamamoto that night. So I think it was the right decision, and even bringing in Blake Trinan was the correct move too. But where I start to question Dave Roberts in that ninth inning is just once you see, the double, the hit by pitch, the walk, and then the bases are loaded out of nowhere. Not only should you just go out there for a mound visit to stall some time, but you have to read the room and read how urgent this game is. One, you can't lose the game. You already lost the no-hitter. You don't want to give up any more runs. You can't lose the game. You don't want to extend the losing streak. And then the team's already morally kind of, dull right now just because of all the losing they've done over the last month. And in September, before they won today, they were winless. They hadn't won a single game in the final month of the regular season. So to go and bring in Tanner Scott, a little bit too late, I would have preferred him to face Cowser there in that inning. Possibly you may get, it's a little bit more breathable when, hey, bases are loaded, you're up 2, rather than bases are loaded and you're up 1. And it ended up backfiring. He brings in Scott. I know that the numbers, like I mentioned earlier, were sexy with Scott being a lefty facing, a batter who was bad in his career against lefties. But you kind of got to go with your best guy, and it has to be somebody else. And I know Dreyer, he pitched the night before, threw around 15 pitches. When you're in a situation where you definitely need a win, you just got to start throwing these guys out there. Have them take off the entire day today. Maybe the game, goes a little bit differently today if they get that no-hitter, or at least finish the game out on Saturday. But that's where it started getting out of there. But Yamamoto coming out of the game, just it seemed like that was going to happen regardless, even though his stuff still looked really good in the final at bat of that game. His velocity looked fine. He's healthy. That's the one thing I'll say, while we stop talking about Yamamoto. I know I was pushing the Shohei Ohtani starting game 1 accord. That dude's got ice in his veins. Yamamoto is starting game 1 of every playoff series. He is the best pitcher on the staff. I got to give him his flowers for that, because what he did on Saturday was what you expected a $325 million pitcher to do.
Totally. I completely agree. I think that he had a lot of haters come at him when we first signed him. It's like, why would you pay a pitcher that much? And that last night was the reason why you pay a pitcher that much. And he is 100% worth it. And no pitcher has perfect games every single outing, but Yamamoto has been our absolute workhorse. The guy that we know that when he gets the ball, he's gonna put it all out there. I adore him. I feel for him. It's part of my heartbreak was just, God, what must he feel? I mean, it's one thing that he doesn't get run support, or he was robbed of an immaculate inning this season and now this. So I just feel like, he seems to always have a good attitude and be a team player, but it's got to be frustrating to just have all these things keep happening to him. But when we just kind of circle back to Tanner Scott, because it's a huge topic of, we pay this man 72, and I know million, we've been talking about him all season, and I feel like what is he, 11 or 12 blown saves he's given up at this point, somewhere in that range. And in the prior 2 years that he was not with the Dodgers, I think he'd only had 6 home runs or something like that. Now he's got, 10 or I don't know. It's just, do hard conversations need to start being had about Tanner Scott? I know we signed up for 3 years, but we're in the tightest of tight races in the next few weeks, and you can't just put him out there simply because we're paying him. And I'm afraid that the guy's going to be booed out of Dodger Stadium if he comes out any more times. And I get it, but at what point do we have to say, what, this isn't working? Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you have to make the decision now. And if it wasn't clear on the day he gave up the walk-off home run on Friday, it should be clear, the day he gives up another walk-off hit on Saturday. And it's nothing against Scott. This is a guy the Dodgers are paying millions of dollars for. He's an impact left-handed closer, but the Dodgers want to use him in, the highest of high leverage, because that's what they saw last year when the Padres got him. And even when he was on the Marlins, he was in there getting the best hitters out in the best situations of the game. And he was clutch, and the Dodgers gave him that contract to be what he was with the Padres last year for the Dodgers this season, and it just hasn't been that way, Drea. You mentioned the home runs, 10 this year, it's his career high, 8 blown saves, an ERA almost at 5. That's just, somebody, if you're looking at the chopping block of all right, who's going to make the postseason roster, that guy's probably not making it on the postseason roster. But because of his contract, his pedigree, and him being a lefty, he's almost guaranteed a spot. He'll be on that roster, and you just hope that he can course correct. But I just feel like for the rest of the season, or at least for the next week, he cannot be in high leverage situations anymore. He has to be brought in when it's either a blowout or early in the game, like 5th or 6th inning. I don't need to see him past the 7th inning, at least for the next 7 to 10 days, until he figures it out. He needs, a mental breather, because baseball's so much in your head, and his post-game comments on Friday just didn't sound inspiring to me, especially for someone who's going to pitch, more often than not late in games, especially in October. And you have a lot of guys that are stepping up right now. I know Henríquez has kind of been up and down a little bit, but for the first 10 appearances, he was pretty dominant as a righty, throwing over, triple digits. Jack Dreyer's been really good. Alex Vessia is coming back tomorrow or today when this episode drops, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But you're getting some of these confidence guys that you have in the bullpen back. You don't have to go to Scott right away. You hope that he can build off of some success, have him get some scoreless outings, and then see what happens in October, whether it's in that wild card round or the division series, whatever comes first. But yeah, I feel like you gotta put your best guys out there. Dave Roberts mentioned about, the lineup construction in terms of left field, infield, all that stuff. Your best 9 should start every day right now, and then your best guys in the bullpen should be getting the more consistent playing time.
Yeah, Anthony, I was kind of just thinking about that as he was talking. Now, if you remember, there was a Noah Syndergaard that we had in the past where he did a post-game presser where he would give up his firstborn child or something. He said something along those lines if he could just learn how to pitch again. And I mean, people were so frustrated with him. I mean, we've gone through hard times. We've gone through Craig Kimbrell days. But at this point, like, let's say we're in the postseason, we are obviously going to probably be within a 1 or 2 run, end of the game. It's going to be high leverage. And you're our bullpen dude, who do we trust at this point to say, here is the ball, and they're not going to just blow it within a few seconds? And I'm terrified. I don't know who we trust. Do we trust anyone, Anthony, to take the ball?
Honestly, there's like 3-4 guys right now that I kind of trust.
Okay.
And it's sad that 2 of them are rookies, and Ben Kasparius and Jack Dreyer. That says a lot about the veteran guys there. Alex Vessia is still like my guy, my dog. I feel very confident when I see him on that bump. And Anthony Banda has had a very like sneaky good year. I wouldn't want to see him in high leverage, but that's an arm that I like coming out the bullpen, like in the 6th inning, maybe 5th inning if a guy struggles in the start. But I wouldn't throw Anthony Banda out there in the 9th inning, no. But I kind of like him out there. Um, and with Henríquez, I've said it before, like I kind of wanted to see him more in high leverage, and there was a low leverage spot here against the Pirates, and he kind of just gave it up there. But I think it's kind of more of like again, he's a rookie, he's kind of getting used to it, but I still have the confidence in him to like, I wouldn't necessarily throw him in high leverage, but like in the 6th inning, 7th inning, you kind of just need a guy to go out there and throw gas. Him
Mhm.
and what's his name? Michael Kopech are those guys that you kind of like trust. I wouldn't trust Kopech in high leverage right now. Kind of just his concern. My concern is his command, because once he loses it, he really does lose it. So I kind of like him there. But the issue becomes your 7th, your 8th, and your 9th inning. Like, who do you trust specifically? And at this point, Tanner Scott, I think he's gonna make the roster just because you need him. But ideally, I wouldn't want to see him throw another pitch the rest of the way. I think he's just so far gone inside his own head that I don't think you're going to be able to like rescue it with whatever time you have left now in the season, which is like 20 games at most. I think this is kind of more of like an issue that you address in the offseason. I still think he'll be a Dodger going into spring training, but I think he just has to watch this season completely. Like whatever happened here, like it's done with. Like just ignore it or do your best to kind of like reverse psychology. Like you're not going to be as bad as you were this season next year, but yeah, I do. I think he's going to be on that roster. I don't know. I just every time I see him, I am not filled with confidence, and it makes you appreciate guys like Kenley Jansen. I know like Dodger fans have mixed opinions because it did go bad towards the end, but Kenley Jansen was like our Hall of Fame closer for so many years. It just only went bad towards the end of the year or his tenure here because he was being overused. We were using him for like 2 innings at most of the time, so.
Yeah.
I kind of like it gives me a different perspective on him. Like, yeah, like Kenley was our guy for so long, and yeah, it went bad towards the end, but we remember all the good years we had with him, and now comparing it to like guys like Tanner Scott that we have now, but we'll see. I just don't know who I can trust closing games out from here.
Yeah, Cody, who's on your Cody Snavely trust tree? Because I'm with Anthony on a lot of those. Like, I'm just, makes you stay up at night wondering.
Yeah, I mean, Dreyer's the guy right now. They let him close out today's game, and he looked fine. I feel like they don't want to put him in the Ben Kasparius route, who was on my trust tree, but I feel like he's just been getting so overused this entire season. I think he's like almost at like 70, 80 innings pitched as a reliever, which is quite a lot, especially for a guy, he jumped into the starting rotation, went back to the bullpen, kind of being used in, bulk inning role, all that stuff. But there's really not many guys to choose from. I do like the abundance of lefties they have in their bullpen, including Tanner Scott, Jack Dreyer, Alex Vessia coming back, and then even Anthony Banda, as Anthony said, having a sneaky, very, very good season. He's not just here for the ladies. He's actually being very productive, especially this summer with a lot of these bullpen arms going on the injured list or having, very inconsistent seasons. And for Tanner Scott, I'm kind of agreeing with Anthony too. It's like, I would personally not want to see him throw another pitch for the next several games. If he didn't make the postseason roster, I probably would be okay with it just because I look at the other lefties they have and I think it's fine. But I think he is going to be on the postseason roster just because of the dollar amounts they're paying him. I think with the Dodgers, though, right now is they don't have the luxury as they had in years past to kind of experiment with their bullpen and say, oh, well, this worked here, that worked there, because they're kind of in a race to just make the playoffs really right now. And what they really need to find is just an impact right-handed pitcher, whether that's going to be Kopech, Henríquez, Blake Trinan. They need one guy, and then they already have the lefties that can kind of mix and match it throughout their lineup. Emmett Sheehan's a guy that's probably going to transition to the bullpen in October as well, so that could be their guy right there. And then you don't really have to use Tanner Scott or some of these other names in high leverage. They can be your new Brent Honeywell. You put him in, either your lead is super high or this game's already over and you're planning for tomorrow. That could be his role in October, because realistically, the Dodgers starting rotation is set. They are as healthy as they can be. Even with the Tyler Glasnow hiccup, they're still fine. They just need like 3 or 4 arms maybe in the bullpen to pitch majority of the time, and they would be set. They don't have to worry about, Tanner Scott if Blake Trinan's not ready. They just need to find 4 guys that they trust enough to get some outs, and hopefully they figure it out in October. I think they have a good set of names. You may see some shuffling down the line, but until Dave Roberts does it, until I see it with my own eyes, I'm just not going to believe. I think he's just going to throw him out there again.
So is it safe to say that we likely won't see Roki Sasaki come make an appearance this season, or maybe even a Kyle Hurt?
Yeah, no. I don't think so. I put out on, DodgersBeat.com, I don't think he's coming back, Sasaki. I just feel like this season it would be more beneficial to just let him finish out the year in AAA. He's set to make another start this week. If he doesn't look anywhere close to where the Dodgers want him, to where they think he can make an impact, I just don't think they're going to bring him up, because he has minor leaguers hitting tape measure shots off of him, bat flipping. I just feel like that's just not a good confidence booster with him. And his most recent start was okay. 4 earned runs, 2 of them on 2-run home runs, and then he settled in the rest of the game. But I kind of want to see someone that's a lockdown arm, especially if it's going to be him transitioning the bullpen. It's a position he's never pitched in his career before. He's always been a starter. So I don't think the Dodgers want to tink with him a little bit too much in his first year, especially when it hasn't been the best start. And I put Kyle Hurt in the Tony Gonsolin territory last season, where he is ready. He is technically built up to be some, productive in the bullpen, but I don't think the Dodgers are going to overly push for him to come back unless the bullpen either has another massive injury, or, they lose another arm, or Tanner Scott continues, like all these struggles. It'll have to be a string of something to make sure that the Dodgers push Hurt returning. I think both guys are 2026. They'll be back next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, kind of just sticking with pitching, but I'm going to kind of circle to going right back to the Pirate series, and then the guy we saw today on the mound, Kersh. He's pitched twice this week, so a little bit of short rest. And I know, Anthony, we have been talking about Kersh since the beginning, and it has been just like, this goat of a season that he just keeps on blowing us away. There was one bad inning early in the Pirate series where it looked like he was going to have a little bit of a repeat, where he was giving up, I think it was 4 runs, and then he just clicked it. He is locked in, and he got through his entire outing and did a really great job. And today, what would we do without Kersh on the mound in this season? Anthony, your thoughts on our GOAT?
Yeah, rough start for him up in Pittsburgh. Kind of got jumped out the gate, but he really settled into that game. What the frustrating part of that game was that I think the offense finally did enough for them to win a game, but then it comes back down to your bullpen. Your bullpen ended up blowing that game for you. So it was kind of a rough start to the road trip. I kind of do like that he's gonna become like Wolverine, basically like this grizzled veteran, a part of this team, kind of just along for the ride. I don't think, like we've discussed it before, I don't think people thought Kershaw would have the year he's having. Certainly not here personally at home or with my friends, talking to them. We kind of just like, oh yeah, like Kersh, like yeah, like come along for the ride, old man. Kind of they jokingly like referring to him as people call him Unk. But he's put together a really, really solid season. I think he's 9-2. It might be 10. Nine wins, 2 losses. But again, the issue is that whenever I feel like whenever he pitches, it kind of course corrects our team. Like, okay, let's get back on track, and then like the rest just kind of crumbles. I don't know whether it's like just mental fatigue, or like everyone's kind of just exhausted. It's been a long season, long 2 seasons. But I felt like today he kind of he went back to normal. He had a really, really good start for him, But again, as the game progresses, I kept getting worried. As I saw Baltimore score 2 runs, I'm like, here we go. Here we go. It just feels like every time the opposing team scores, I'm like, here we go. Like we haven't scored since I don't know when we scored this last. So I'll use the third inning for example, and then I see like the opposing team is building momentum, building momentum. Okay, like we have our top guys coming here. Nope, down in 3. Okay, now I see the opposing team building momentum, building momentum. It feels like we're stuck in a cycle. What I'm basically trying to say, we're stuck in a cycle. Like you'll have your starter go out there 6 strong, and the offense will score early for him, but then they won't score the rest of the game. And then now you allow the opposing team to gain momentum and get into your bullpen, your weak spot, and now they either win the game or you end up losing the game. So I don't know. It's just a frustrating cycle at this point. Like this is what I'm hearing from friends and family and like coworkers and stuff. Like it feels like we're watching the same game over and over again for the past like 4 or 5 months. That's exactly what we've been doing, basically.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, the beard is getting grayer with Kirsch, but I mean, we can still rely on him to throw. Well, I should say pitch, because he's a pitcher, not a thrower, and I think that's one of the key things that defines Clayton Kershaw all these years is that when Plan A isn't going, quite right, he knows how to adjust and go to Plan B and C and D. And I think younger pitchers need to take note. This guy is putting on a master class this year in year 18. But today he was followed. Not too long after his outing by Wrobleski. Did you like that pairing, Cody?
Yeah, I think I want to see more of potential long men that are going to be added to the bullpen. And Wrobleski was excellent today. 5 strikeouts of his 6 batters faced. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. The Dodgers definitely needed some length from somebody in the bullpen. Like Kershaw, got into the 6th inning. So I believe it was like 5 2/3. So, you still got a little bit of game left. And obviously we've seen how the bullpen has performed over the last, season. So you kind of have to try to shorten the game some way. And Wrobleski did his job there. It made the game a lot more easier to navigate for Dodgers manager Dave Roberts. Bring in Jack Dreyer at the end of the game. You got Henríquez, who got in a little bit of trouble after Kershaw. But other than that, it was a really solid day for the team. I did share the same thoughts as Anthony, where it was like, here they go. They're going to start chipping away again. And it looks like the bullpen may, squander yet another game for the Dodgers to win. They're going to come back home with the losing streak reaching 6 games. But no, they did their job today. It looked really good. Wrobleski is a guy that I'm going to keep my eye on for the final 2-3 weeks of the season to see if he gets a postseason spot, because he's looked really good. He's shown a lot of improvement from last year. The velocity is excellent. And then pairing him with possibly Emmett Sheehan in the bullpen, that could be their recipe to fix this team, like I mentioned earlier. So, and then shout out to Kershaw, man. He's leading the charge for this starting rotation. I really didn't think that was going to be the case this year, and I'm a big as a Kershaw fan as there is, and he's kind of, getting into that territory we mentioned before. Is he going to start a postseason game? It's kind of leaning that way. He'll pitch in the postseason in some capacity, but the starting rotation has been excellent for the Dodgers since August. They're in top 3 in ERA, FWAR, FIP, all the statistics that you can see, strikeouts, all that. And it's because they're all healthy at the right time. It's their biggest strength. And Clayton Kershaw setting the example. He's the only guy in the rotation that can go on 4 days rest now. I mean, I put out a tweet the other day. I said, it's kind of that old school mentality versus a new school mentality. And Kershaw is just in my opinion, the greatest generation of pitchers from, the modern baseball era, where you have, Max Scherzer, Zach Greinke, Clayton Kershaw, a lot of other names as well. That era is sadly kind of disappearing, but great for Kershaw in year 18. And I think it's going to be a couple more seasons that he's going to put on a show for the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, that is exactly what I want to hear, because I said it last week's show that I'm just not ready to see Kersh hang it up just yet. I mean, he clearly still has the stuff, but yeah, I was really happy to see Wrobleski get out of the jam. It was, not the safest feeling for us Dodger fans when we're seeing the oh my God, this is where it goes astray. But that will lead me nicely to our talking about our sponsors. So I'll just kind of take a moment to do that. The internet itself isn't always a safe place, and this episode today is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online. As someone with an active online presence myself, privacy is super important to me. And there's so many people who have been victims of identity theft, harassment, doxing. And if you haven't, you probably know someone who has. And Delete Me can help. Data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. So take your data, or take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners, viewers, and watchers. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting HIT, H-I-T, to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text HIT to 64,000. That's HIT, H-I-T, to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. Okay, so back to our show, and I don't want to forget to bring up this young cat that we saw activated this week. Your thoughts on Ben Rortvedt, because he was put in the situation I'm sure that he can't even believe that he was put into. How could we have predicted both Will Smith and Dalton Rushing are gone for a little bit, and now he's in just some of the most impossible situations where he's got to be, our pitcher. I'm sorry, our starting catcher, and he happens to see in his first major league big game a potential no-hitter. Anthony, what did you think of him?
Honestly, I can't imagine being put in that situation myself. Like, you're an out away from a no hitter and you're basically still dry or wet in the major league level. But no, I think he's doing his job. That's basically all I can say about him. He's doing his job. It sucks that we lost two catchers in such short period of time, and our options are kind of very, very limited at this point. I don't know, Cody, you still think you can go out there and give us a 20 more games, or are you done?
Honestly, I can give it a go. I'll bust out the catching
Yeah.
mitt. We'll be ready. It is a tough situation for all these catchers on the roster because I think the Dodgers are just put into a difficult spot. They let go of Austin Barnes early in the year. They bring up Dalton Rushing. To lose both of those guys in the matter of 3 games is something that nobody can predict, and that's a good thing about our sport. It's also a frustrating thing about our sport. And I felt more bad for Rushing because that one was kind of entirely out of his hands. A foul ball right off the shin kind of hit. I think Oral Hershiser brought it up, but it's pain that I get. It's where you get shin splints. He definitely hit a nerve, and that's why he didn't get up. I've done that in my playing days before too, and it's an injury that you can't walk for a couple days. And when you hit it as hard as he did, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out for the rest of the year. I know they said the CT scan didn't show any microfractures or anything like that, but that's just something that's going to be hard to come back from, especially in a demanding position as catcher. But luckily for Rushing, he's not the starter. The big one is Will Smith, and that one I kind of just said, come on, Will. You got to go to catching 101 again. You should never have your throwing hand in, the view of where it can potentially get either hit by the bat or a foul ball like happened in Pittsburgh. And, it usually it's one of those plays that never comes to our mind until it happens. And he left his hand out there a little bit past his glove and it got hit by a foul ball. And the Dodgers are lucky and he's lucky that he didn't break his hand. It was only a bone bruise, which even that in itself, that's going to take some time. And Dave Roberts didn't really sound too encouraged about how the injury is going to be for the rest of the season. Said it's going to be something that he's going to manage for the rest of the year and possibly going into the offseason. How he grips a bat is going to be affected, his bat speed, his throwing. It was his throwing hand. So how is he going to be, keeping those runners on the base? We saw how valuable that was when Will Smith and Blake Snell had that start at Dodger Stadium where he threw out 3 runners in the first 2 innings of the game. Will teams take advantage of that when he comes back? So I assume we're going to get more updates on Monday where Smith is at, because can't really just keep him around sitting there on the bench if he's not going to be able to pinch hit or do anything in some capacity. You may have to IL him, and at that rate, who's coming up back from the minor leagues? Are they going to bring back Alex Freeland? Or are they going to do something else? It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but hopefully Smith is good enough to play when October comes around, because they need his bat in the middle of the Dodgers lineup.
I mean, can we realistically win the division? And I know it seems like a long shot at this point to try to get the 2 seed, but are we screwed or cooked, as they say, without Smith?
Yeah, we're pretty cooked if he's down and out for a while. Again, it's a pain tolerance thing. But the issue is, it feels like we've dealt with all these like freak injuries all year long to all sorts of guys. Starting with Freddie Freeman last year, slipping in the shower, spraining his ankle, Mookie hitting his pinky toe on the edge of his bed. It's just freak accident after freak accident. The Dalton Rushing one as well too. Just another baseball play that happens, but freak accident. You hit yourself right at the right spot. You're going to be out for a while. At this point, it feels like it's kind of just like I alluded to it on my Twitter. Like we're on the Titanic and we're kind of just like rearranging furniture because like we see what's happening, but like we're trying to save it. But I feel like it's kind of trending in a certain direction, and it's kind of just like this might not be our year. It feels like it's going that way. It's just one thing after the other. Guys, it feels like our team has turned into like individuals, sort of like guys are kind of just like looking out for themselves kind of now at this point, kind of still giving off that team vibe. But I think it's just like we're just basically rearranging furniture now at this sinking ship now, and we're kind of like I personally am dressed to my best. If it goes down, like it goes down, and we'll pick up the pieces and we'll go from there. But it just feels like everything last year went right for us. That eventually our luck was gonna come short.
And I think with Smith, it's kind of along. You have to look at it how it, like I mentioned, how is he going to play with the injured hand, because it's not something that's going to go away. The Dodgers didn't really need Will Smith last year. His bat was pretty non-existent in the October run. You know, he had that home run at Petco Park in the NLDS and kind of put that one out of reach in Game 4. But other than that, he kind of was just there, managed the pitching staff, managed the bullpen. You know, got a couple walks here and there, but wasn't really the Will Smith that we've seen this season. If the Dodgers lose that bat, I'm still going to have confidence because I just feel like the trio between Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman is better than anybody, and they have been playing very well in the month of September and August. So you got to ride the hot hand with them. Those guys need to stay hot and continue to hit well, especially Mookie Betts, who has looked like a completely different person this month especially. So if the Dodgers can get him back rolling, I'm not going to say, the season's over. But Will Smith being out for any period of time, especially in the regular season when we mentioned NOS lead is only one game. You're still 4 back from the Phillies for the number 2 seed, which is what I want them to fight for. But yeah, it's not looking too great for Smith. And that's why I really want to see that Monday update, see how he's feeling, when he's going to get back in the lineup, because, Chucky Robinson and Ben Rortvedt, being as our backstops is not something I had on my bingo card. And it's really not looking appealing, even though I did think Ben had a really good weekend in Baltimore. Bunt, he knew his role, which was just to catch the game and bunt and try to get on base as any way as possible. And he had a really good game at that start with Yamamoto. Got bunted a couple runners over, got them to score, and then ended up catching 8 2/3 of a shutout, a no-hitter for his first time ever catching Yamamoto, which isn't an easy task. So we'll see what happens. But the injuries are starting to pile up, and it's been very unfortunate for the Dodgers. But then I also look around the league. A lot of National League teams are getting injuries. Trey Turner, the Phillies, went down with a hamstring strain today. We'll see how long he's out. The Brewers, they've lost a couple guys in their bullpen. Nobody's going to cry boo-hoo for the injuries for the Dodgers, especially when you have as many talented players as they have.
Yeah, it's kind of just makes me think about just the season as a whole and just the bad luck, the injuries. And then I know there was one game this week you posted on your social media, Cody, that something just feels off with this team. And Anthony sees my texts every other day, yelling my ear, with some colorful language that, I just feel like something is really wrong. Something's happening behind the scenes. What is it? Are we ever going to know? And I'm just like a fan, just trying to speculate because I want an answer to what's going on. But do you think there are bigger cracks behind the scenes that is just getting into their heads? This is a dark cloud this year over. I don't know how to even verbalize that, but I feel like there's something that isn't just as simple as, we got to put the ball in play. We got to play better.
Yeah, I think, whenever you're losing games, the vibes aren't high, especially as a fan. The players are even going to be worse in that clubhouse. We don't see all the time what the cameras show, and I've kind of been, covering the team in my limited time of going into the clubhouse, especially after a tough loss, all that stuff. You see it does mean something to them. So when they lose a game like they did in Baltimore and Pittsburgh, losing to below 500 teams and continuing that rough stretch of games and with their record, I think they're 7 and 12 against those types of teams over the last couple weeks. it does eat at them. And you look at Tanner Scott's comments where he's not confident, he's not liking the results. You look at Clayton Kershaw's comments today, even after a win, he knows that the team is better than what they've been playing as. We'll never know if there's ever some type of rift. That's where, give credit to Dave Roberts and what he's done in years past, where you can take as many superstars as you can and get them to gel as well as they could. You look at the team in our division, the San Diego Padres, they've been very inconsistent of playing, winning baseball with the amount of talent they have. It's hard to bring a lot of players through free agency, trade, international, all that stuff to make them have the same goal and mindset, and that is to win as many games and get to an eventual World Series championship. This season, I just feel like the injuries and everything have piled up more than ever, especially as of late, and we're seeing their play on the field kind of bite the bullet for it. We're seeing guys that shouldn't be getting everyday at-bats like Michael Conforto, and even to a certain extent in the second half, Teoscar Hernandez and Andy Pages. Those are guys that didn't start today. I think that was on for a reason. So those are guys that need to start getting hot, and it just hasn't felt like a full season for this Dodgers team specifically. And that's not to say I don't think they can change it, or as they say, flip the switch, with a phrase we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks in October. But I'm going to bet on the veterans and what we saw last year from some of these guys to come up big for the last 19 games and hopefully into October, whatever division series or the wild card, whatever they begin first.
I mean, and there's some of our big boys are performing. Like in the last 2 games, you had Shohei and Mookie with incredible home runs. And Shohei and Mookie themselves were 7 for 17. They had 3 walks, 7 RBIs, 3 home runs, and a triple. So although Freddie didn't have his best game today, they're seeing the production there. And it looks to me, from what I've read, that Muncy is going to be coming back tomorrow. Am I right? So, and then you got Edman soon to follow. Anthony, will that make any difference in giving us hope for wins?
Yeah, it'll make a difference right away, because now you start taking away at bats from hopefully Michael Conforto, and you kind of slot Muncy right where he belongs in the middle of that lineup, kind of where he tends to kind of rake. I feel like him being down for a majority of the season is what affected us the most, kind of missing that consistent bat there, a guy who watches pitches and who hits homers and plays doesn't play stellar defense, but he's solid. And Tommy Edman as well. He's felt like he's missed majority of the year, if not more than that. I feel like he at the start of the year we were talking about like, whoa, this guy's like he's on fire. He's kind of building off the successful playoff run that he had, the NLCS MVP. He was solid in the World Series, and he had a first good month, and then he's kind of been dealing with this ankle injury, and now hopefully he's finally over it, and we can just play baseball at this point. Because I still feel like he slots right into our outfield. He's fully healthy, but he's also that guy that can play all over the place as well. His versatility is kind of something that we've been lacking, and his at bats as well too. He kind of just like puts the ball into play more effectively and more helps set up our bigger bats in the as well. But it just feels at this point that I don't know if those two are going to be enough to kind of course correct. We only have like 20 games at this point. At this point, it's kind of just trying to see if they can get tuned up as much as possible for a playoff run, and we'll see where we're at. But yeah, ideally, those two guys slot in and they start playing right away as soon as they're back healthy with us, which Muncy is tomorrow and Edman shortly, not that far after.
Yeah, I hope that we still have, at least finishing off with a not like terrible record in the Freeman era, because I think that with the number of games we have left, depending on how many wins we get, I don't even know if we'll scratch 90. I mean, it doesn't look like we're going to get too much higher than that. And I'm not sure if it's 89 or 90, but in the Freeman era, that would be like a low point in the time that he has been with us. And that would be one of our historically bad seasons, considering the amount of talent that we have on this team and the expectation that people were talking like we were going to go over 120 wins and break the record. That's just a very big disappointment if it does go that way, and it could. And to add insult to injury, the Giants are getting on a hot streak right now. So I don't know how worried we are about them, but should we be worried about not only the Padres but the Giants?
Yeah, the Giants are putting together a little run here, in large part to Rafael Devers, who has been on fire for the Giants over the last month or so. I think he has like 10 home runs, and obviously, he had that benches clearing incident where he looked at his 470-foot shot in Colorado. But yeah, they just had, they lost 2 in a row now. They lost to St. Louis again today, but they were on a stretch of 9-1 over the last 10 games, a couple days ago. They made up tremendous ground in the wild card hunt, and they're kind of in the rear view mirror of the Dodgers and Padres in the race for the NL West. I mean, you could probably clip it, and if anything changes, I don't think they're winning the division. I still don't think they're making the playoffs, but the Dodgers have to play them 7 more times, and those are going to be tough games. And the Dodgers and Giants, that rivalry, that San Francisco would like nothing more than to either force the Dodgers to either miss the playoffs or not win the division, or force them to play a wild card round, something that they didn't want to do. And that's something we're going to watch. They have to play the Phillies for 3 games as well. Those are going to be very important games for all of these teams. The Giants, their wild card hopes are still alive. The Phillies are trying to lock up a first round bye for themselves, and the Dodgers are kind of chasing everybody in the National League, in terms of the hierarchy, and they're trying to fend off 2 giants at the bottom of them, in the Padres and the Giants. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about them, though. I think the National League is pretty much set bracket wise. I think the Mets will be in there. I think the Padres. It's really just a matter of like who gets the seeding. The Dodgers could realistically be the 6th seed, which is not something any of us predicted. Dre, you mentioned, like projected records. Fangraphs had him this morning at 90. That would be the lowest of Andrew Freeman's tenure. His lowest is 92 from his first, I think, season with the Dodgers in 2015. I think they won like 91. But we'll see what happens. I don't think anyone put, scratching 90 or fighting for 90 for this Dodgers team. You would at least like to see them get somewhere in like the 95, 96 range. But unless they go on a crazy run over the last 19 games, I just don't see it. But the rest of the National League's kind of been struggling as well. The Brewers were on a skid. The Phillies, they were struggling to stay consistent, and now they're out without Trey Turner probably for the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens there, and if the Dodgers can capitalize on that. Because even though 4 games is a lot between them and the Phillies now for the number 2 seed, I still think it's realistically possible, especially when they got Colorado coming to Dodger Stadium in a series that I think they have to sweep. We can get into all that later, but that's just something they have to do this week.
I hate to say sweep unless I'm really feeling it, but I think that we're in these every game matters. And that sounds very cliche, but I don't see how we can lose a game and not risk giving up our division. Those Padres have, they were doing just as piss poor as we were for a while, but I think whether they have a 2-win stretch or game-winning stretch like what we have had the last couple of days. So now they're fighting for it. They smell blood. They see that they could possibly take it. So we're going to be in for a very exciting few weeks, and I don't think we can take any of these teams like too lightly. They're all coming after us. Every team would want to knock the Dodgers off at this point or make life 10 times harder for them. So we shall see. It's going to be a very fun couple weeks. I won't be going to this homestand, but I definitely have tickets for the week that the Phillies are there. I'm going to be hanging out. Anthony, I don't know if you're going to be going to that, but it's going to feel like playoffs. I'm already going through playoff emotions. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think we'll actually hit over 90 wins this year? Because what are we at today? 79?
I think it's 79.
79, yeah.
So
79
do we
wins.
hit 90? Do we get to the 90s, boys? What do you think?
Man.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
Okay.
I think they definitely get 90. I think you have to get 90 to at least definitely 100% make the playoffs.
Okay.
Every other team is all projected to win 90 or so games. And that if the Dodgers figure their stuff out, they have to take advantage of their schedule. They got a couple of games against the Giants. They got, Diamondbacks who gave them some fits. But if they can take advantage of the Rockies for these 3 games here, and then, kind of the Mariners is the final series of the year. They've been shaky over the last month or so. So you got to take advantage of what you can. And hopefully, we've been saying it after a series loss and where they squeak away with 1 win. We're like, this is it. This is where they're going to go on the streak. We saw them what they did it last week at Dodger Stadium. They swept the Reds, who were a playoff hopeful team. Hopefully, they can definitely definitely do that against the Rockies team who is already at 103 losses this year.
I hope so, because this is the team that we're going to work with. And, you know, I don't want to see Conforto many more times out there, but he was batting cleanup today. And I read this crazy stat that every time he's batted cleanup, we are 5-0 in the win. So maybe just, you know,
Oh God.
that's how he keeps earning time on our team. But yeah, we'll definitely kind of get into predictions in just a moment. But a couple of cool key pieces of news that I don't want to forget to mention. Right before we started the show, I just opened up my Instagram and I saw that the Edman family, Tommy Edman, posted, and his wife are expecting another baby. So congratulations there. That is adorable. Love when the Dodgers post that they're adding to their families. And I think you sent this, Anthony. There is a book called Viva coming out next year in March of 2026. It is by Natalie Alonso and John Parr, and it's a picture book biography about Fernando Valenzuela and Fernando Mania, which I know that many of our fans are huge Fernando fans, and I think will always be. But it's coming out on March 24th, 2026. There's going to be an English and a Spanish version, and you can already pre-order it. So once again, get your hands on Viva. It's a picture book about Fernando Valenzuela. So that's very cool. So yeah, favorite time for the of the episode to look ahead. The Rockies are coming to LA. One of those is going to be a Shohei bobblehead night. So I'm excited for that because Shohei always does something pretty awesome on his bobblehead nights. At least historically he does. And that's going to be on Wednesday. But I don't know the pitching matchup for tomorrow, but it looks like Sheehan and Snell are going to go this week in this series. And the guys that are going to be on the Rocky side, all of them have above 5 ERA. So what do we think is going to happen this week at Dodger Stadium?
Man, I think they're going to win two games at least. But I think the reaction when they hear, I think they might hear the Boo Birds out tomorrow. I think fans are upset. Look, I'm not a guy that's going to go out there and boo my own team. Like I'll be upset in my own like sanctity of my own house, but I'll never boo anyone. But I think there's just like so much frustration that's been like looming over like the past 6 games that I think they're just gonna hear it. But I think it's also gonna kind of like, I don't know, kind of like light a fire in their ass. There's no better way of saying like, yeah, like we know we've been bad and like watch us sweep them. So I'll call it. We're gonna sweep the Rockies. We're gonna sweep the Rockies. Yeah. Yeah, I'll stand by that. We'll sweep the Rockies.
I mean, when she mentioned, ERAs over 5 and 6, I'm starting to think they may have their fits this series. But it's a lot of guys that they've had a lot of success against. The one guy that may kind of give them fits is Kyle Freeland, who had his best start of the season the other day after he got ejected in the first inning, so he was fresh and ready to go. I think he fired like 8 shutout innings against the Padres at Coors Field. So credit to him there. He helped us out, but him being a lefty could give the Dodgers some trouble. But this is a series that they have to sweep, and I don't like to predict stuff too. Like yes, they're going to sweep it, but when you look at the matchups, they're going to get Glasnow in one of these games. It just depends on which game it is. They may shuffle around Sheehan in the rotation, but I assume Glasnow's going to go on Monday, Sheehan, and then Snell. That's as good as a 3 starters you can face against a Rockies team, who I already mentioned is already in the 100-loss column. They have nothing to play for other than to get these young guys opportunities and to beat teams like the Dodgers to play spoiler. You're not at Coors Field. You don't got to worry about some wacky outfield situations that we saw at Teoscar a couple weeks ago. You don't have to worry about the home runs or anything like that. You're at your field, your stadium. Even if they hear the Boo Birds, play off of that. People are tired of the Dodgers playing shitty baseball. They want them to play winning baseball. And what better time to do that? You get the win on Sunday. You got 3, a short home stand against the Rockies. Take advantage of it. They need to win 3. Worst case scenario is 2 out of 3. They cannot lose this series. If they lose this series, I'm going to be pissed. Like it would probably be like the epitome of everything we saw last week, and then to lose another series to the Rockies, I would probably just start hate watching. I'll start hate everything with this team.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to come down to that. I think they will take care of business, just because I think the offense, some of these guys are clicking at the right time, and I think they understand the moment. I think Ohtani, what he showed today, understood the assignment, hitting 2 home runs. And I think Betts is starting to get on a hot streak. Freeman should be next. And then you get Max Muncy coming back should save this offense, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens, especially when Edman comes back, hopefully later in the week. But yeah, there's not much else you can sugarcoat about this series against the Rockies. They need to win all three of these games because they have a very good big series at Oracle Park in San Francisco over the weekend. We'll see how that goes. The Giants have been hot. The Dodgers have been, trying to get into a rhythm, and they would like nothing more than to, disrupt the Dodgers season even more. And then you got the Phillies right after that. So the Dodgers need to start getting some confidence in all of their players and in that clubhouse. And what better way to do that than a sweep?
Yeah, I'm saying it too. They have to sweep. They better sweep because, I have, just the scared feeling that, if we go down this week and we get 2 behind, our season's over. And at that point, they won't, frankly, I think they won't deserve the playoffs if they let something like being handed to them on a silver platter, as good as the Rockies coming in, get some distance, win the games. They know how to do it. They just need to play the fundamental Dodger baseball that they all know how to do it. Now do it. Put it into effect, because the fans, there's a lot of discontent. And they may hear it, I don't know. But this season, we had more fans at Dodger Stadium than any other season in a shorter amount of time. People support this team. They spend a lot of money supporting this team, and I think they need to give the product back to everyone that they know that they can produce. So sweep them, Dodgers. That is the only choice you have this week. But that is it for my notes, unless you guys have any closing thoughts.
Just win some games.
Yeah,
That's all I have
please
to
win
say.
win games, man. Yeah, this is rough. Yeah, just win games.
Yeah, that's your only choice. Win games, and we will have our next episode whenever that is, and we will hopefully be looking at a little more distance in the NL West and the standings. But yes, that is going to do it for us. We definitely want to remind you again to check out Cody's articles. They keep me informed. They keep everyone informed all throughout the week. You can find those on DodgersBeat.com and his Substack. So check that out to stay informed, especially as we get closer and closer to postseason. We want to keep up to date on everything Dodger Blue. And don't forget to check out our handles. You can find me on Instagram and X at Ravine Queen 1958. You can find Cody on X at Snavely Cody 6, and you can find Anthony on X at Anthony Acosta _. And again, please don't forget to check out our YouTube channel on DodgersBeat.com for all of the pregame and postgame interviews and all of the wonderful things that our producer Roger and all of the people that work for DodgersBeat.com give to us every day. And with that said, we got to thank one more thing. We hit 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we want to just thank everyone for all of your support, because that is an incredible number, and we know that we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you for supporting the entire channel and DodgersBeat.com. And until next time, go Dodgers.